Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Footy with Fletch podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by Port Adelaide AFLW player Shineah Goody. Shineah was pre-signed to Port Adelaide in the expansion under-18 talent pathway pre-signing period, and Shineah was widely regarded as a top 3 player in last year's AFLW draft. Hello Shineah, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
No worries, Fletch. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
And you started playing football in Adelaide and grew up in Adelaide. What was that like for you?
Yeah, well, I actually grew up on the Yorke Peninsula, which is about 2.5 hours away from Adelaide. But so I sort of started my journey on the Yorke Peninsula playing with the boys until I was sort of at that age where they said I wasn't allowed to. So that was around maybe when I was about 14. So then I was lucky enough to sort of Yorke Peninsula is zoned with Woodville West Torrens, so I was fortunate enough to then be invited out to the Eagles pre-season when I was turning 15, and then yeah, was lucky enough to sort of get picked up in that squad, and then yeah, play in the Sanford W since then.
We'll get to the Sample W in a minute, but I just want to sort of learn a bit more about what it was like growing up on the Yorke Peninsula.
Yeah, so obviously, as I said, it's 2.5 hours away from Adelaide, so pretty country, and obviously with football and everything, as well as school commitments back on the Yorke Peninsula, there was a fair bit of travel that mum and dad had to commit to, and just lucky enough that I had them, and they were willing enough to sacrifice all of their work and time to drive me over. But yeah, I feel like I liked growing up on the Yorke Peninsula, so obviously it wasn't as busy as anything, and we live pretty close to the beach, so I would always just be able to go down to the beach and do whatever I want, really. So yeah, it was pretty nice.
And you mentioned sort of playing and training on the Sample W scene as a 15-year-old. What was that like being so young?
Yeah, I was so stressed going into the first pre-season, so I also played for Henley Sharks sort of leading up to that. So there was a couple of girls that I already knew, but obviously going into a new environment and everything as a 15-year-old was pretty scary, especially going up against women as well. So it was scary, but sort of looking back on it, I'm just so grateful that I was firstly given that opportunity and then lucky enough to be sort of signed to that club. Yeah.
And what AFL club did you grow up supporting as a child? And are there some players that you idolised?
Yes, I've always sort of supported Port Adelaide just because I guess my whole family sort of went for them and I sort of just tagged along, but not die-hard supporters, but just like, I mean, I love watching all football, so, but yeah, just love watching Port win. Obviously, they had a good win round one against Eagles, but yeah, and then players, obviously the last couple of years, it would have to be Connor Rosie and Zach Butters and that sort of stuff. But a bit earlier on, probably those like Travis Boakes, Ollie Wines, and yeah, those sort of players.
What's it like now to be able to see those guys around the club as well, given that you are now a Port Adelaide AFLW player? Is it a bit surreal?
Yeah, it's sort of hard to wrap your head around it. Like the other day, I was walking in to do recovery or something, and Travis was obviously walking out for some reason. And yeah, it just doesn't feel real that you're sort of in the same team or club as those sort of blokes as well.
What was it like walking into the Port Adelaide Football Club for the first time after you were pre-signed?
Yeah, it wasn't sort of my first time because I was in Port Adelaide's Next Generation Academy. So when I was probably, I don't even, maybe like 14, 15, or 16, we were lucky enough that we would be training there and we were able to use their facilities and everything. And then, so that was surreal as it was as a like 15-year-old. But then we were also lucky enough, four of us girls, Lauren Young, Molly Brooksby, and Brooke Boylo, we were lucky enough to train with the AFLW team last season throughout the season once a week. So we were sort of exposed to all of their facilities then as well. But yeah, obviously it was just crazy to sort of be involved and see sort of all of the high performances and what they have access to as AFLW players.
And you mentioned being a next generation academy player, and Lauren Young and Molly Brooksby were also pre-signed by Port Adelaide. So you obviously know those two girls. What about the other draftees from last year, Piper Window and Alyssa Brooke? Did you know those girls before coming into the club?
Yeah, obviously, I've known them for a while just through like state and other sort of football commitments as well. So, I mean, with the current list at Port Adelaide, there would be maybe like at least 10 or so of the girls that I've actually played state with over the last couple of years. So that's like Hannah, Matilda, Ella, Borgie. Like there's so many that I was lucky enough to play state with in my underage year as well as my top age year with then like Lauren and like Molly and all of those girls as well.
And you played 20 sample W games with the Woodville West Torrens Eagles since 2022. What was the time with the club like, and how did you find it?
Yeah, I feel like, as I said before, just being exposed to those sort of stronger bodies and that facing against women, unlike in like the Victorian comps as well, there's obviously the talent league, which like girls my age would be playing against similar age and body sizes. But I feel like because we're in a women's league, you just sort of learn a bit more and get exposed to those stronger bodies and that. And I feel like Eagles have probably one of the best, well, I would say the best program within the SANFL-W. Obviously, there's a bit of bias there, but with what role our head coach has been able to sort of set up after being involved with the Crows AFLW, she was a coach for the midfield there, as well as sort of like all of the other football commitments she's been involved in over the years as well. She's sort of set up a really good high performance space and everything to make sure that we're preparing ourselves as best we can as athletes and then sort of, yeah, just being the best footballers we can. So, yeah, I was really fortunate enough to have Ro as a coach at the Eagles.
And in 2023, with the Eagles, you played 11 games, averaged 16.9 disposals, going at 82% disposal efficiency, 5 tackles and 4 marks. What did you make of your season last year in the Samful W?
Yeah, I'm always criticizing my game, so I'm never satisfied with anything that I do or achieve. So, always looking to improve and everything. And looking back at last year's season, yeah, I wasn't really happy with it, to be fair, but because I sort of changed my position a bit. Like I started a couple games in the midfield for a bit and then went down back for a couple stints and then sort of later on in the season I sort of found a bit of rhythm and everything on the wing. So then sort of stayed there for a bit. But I mean like I'm happy to change positions and everything and sort of just play wherever the team needs. So I feel like that's a strength that I bring to any team, my versatility. So in that sense, I was happy with what I was able to achieve, but obviously, it would have been good if I could have helped the team to win a few more games, but we move on from that.
Well, before we do move on, you won the Woodville West Torrens Samful W Best and Fairest last year, so obviously that's a huge achievement. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that was pretty rigged. I don't know how I ended up winning that, especially missing a couple of games with state. But yeah, obviously, I'm just grateful to win that, and then having Marley coming second, only a couple votes behind me, it was so good to see her sort of find consistency in her playing, and yeah, sort of just get the, I mean, like reward for her effort as well. So yeah, it was just good to see all of the other girls achieve what they wanted to as well.
And you participated in the AFLW National Championships representing South Australia in both the under 17s and the under 18s. What do you think were some of the differences between the under 17s and the under 18s?
Yeah, well, a lot of the players sort of transitioned similar with me from both of the squads, but I mean, obviously versing other sort of states and everything, you sort of learn a bit about how everyone else sort of goes about their business and how they play as well. But obviously, SA had a pretty good squad for both my underage campaign and my top age campaign as well. So I mean, it just shows how good the talent program in SA is and sort of how it compares to the other states as well.
And in 2022, you were named the most valuable player and the best and fairest winner in the national championships. Did you expect to receive that award?
No, definitely not, especially going up. I mean, yeah, as I said, I was an underager then. So, like, going up against like Ella Roberts and like Montana Ham and that, it was a bit of a surprise. But obviously, SA did pretty well in those championships going. We won all three games. So, I guess it was more just the support from the girls that probably made me win that award, to be honest.
And in 2023, you averaged 24.3 disposals, 12.7 contested, going at 78% disposal efficiency with 5.7 clearances in the under 18 AFLW National Championships. How did you find the performances in those games last year?
Yeah, obviously, I guess I'm sort of able to get those numbers and stats and that just purely from the people that surround me on the field as well as the coaches and everything having faith in, well, belief and everything in my ability and being able to sort of win my own football and everything. But yeah, again, SA did pretty well winning another three games from those championships. So yeah, as I said, I wouldn't be able to sort of achieve those sort of stats and everything without those around me. So yeah.
And you've already got so many individual achievements in your career so far. Do you get overwhelmed by or sort of shocked by the number of individual achievements that you've already achieved?
Not really, because as I said, I'm never satisfied with what I've done. So I feel like yeah, like I've been able to, I was lucky enough to win those sort of awards and everything. But if you're not sort of satisfied with what you're doing and you're obviously always wanting to get better, so it's about just moving on from what you've achieved previously and sort of putting steps into what you can do better next time and sort of all of those extra sort of bits, whether it's in like the gym, recovery, nutrition, and all that sort of stuff. So sort of just getting those the top edge to sort of back up those performances and do better next time as well.
Who do you think were some of the toughest opponents that you played against in the AFLW National Championships last year?
Yeah, so I feel like last year there was probably, well, just the whole Queensland game that was, we did pretty well to beat WA and Vic Metro by a fair few goals, I reckon. So then obviously going up against Queensland on Adelaide Oval, it was a bit of a harder competition. So I feel like that whole midfield was pretty strong, and it was a bit hard to sort of break him down until sort of yeah. Well, it was right until the end, really, in that game, which was a bit different to obviously the previous games that we had played. So like, yeah, I'd just say the Queensland midfield, and then from WA, I went up against Jamie Henry a bit in the midfield as well as Caitlin Sirhoy as well. So yeah, probably those girls.
And you mentioned playing on an oval like the Adelaide Oval. What is it like walking onto an oval like that for the first time and then playing on such a special ground?
Yeah, it's crazy, obviously, being 17 and being lucky enough to get that opportunity to play on such a great oval. It was pretty crazy, and obviously the ground was in just such great form. So I always love playing there, and hopefully there's a few more opportunities in the future that I get to run out there again.
And you've mentioned a few times that you're never satisfied. Can you talk me through a little bit about what you mean by that and what you sort of want to get from your football journey to become more satisfied?
Yeah, I feel like just that's sort of the person who I am. Like, obviously, no one's perfect, so you're never going to have a perfect game, but it's sort of how you learn from your previous mistakes and what you do next to sort of move on and become that better person, whether it's like those simple fundamental efforts or like just like there's so many different components in the game that you can be learning and sort of improving on all the time. So it's just sort of getting the time to learn as much as you can. And obviously, being lucky enough to get drafted, I'm sort of exposed to more coaches and everything that can help me. So, and obviously, being a bit of a smaller player myself, it's just more learning about your body positioning and everything. And yeah, I feel like whenever I play, I always obviously make mistakes because no one's perfect, but it's sometimes I just get a bit stuck on those mistakes a bit. So I dwell on them for a while, but it's just sort of learning how I can move on and just what I can do next to sort of benefit the team.
And you were regarded as a top three draft pick. What does that mean to you? Obviously, you didn't go top three because you were pre-signed, but what does that mean to you to even be considered in the top three?
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that a lot of the sort of talent managers and that sort of regarded me as a top three pick or whatever. But then again, when you look at like picks don't mean anything. So it's sort of obviously, yeah, I'm extremely grateful to sort of be regarded in that sort of caliber. But it's like, what can you do next when you are lucky enough to be in the environment to then sort of solidify, well, trying to get a spot in the team as well. So it's, yeah, although like yeah, I don't really look at the picks as being anything because you could go pick 50 or whatever, and then as soon as you get into a club, it's like what sort of you do next to put your best foot forward. So that's how I sort of look at it.
It's a really great outlook that you have. What was the process involved with being signed via the pre-signing period?
Yeah, so I was in I obviously sort of had to make a decision whether to put my name into the national draft or to pre-sign. So I know, yeah, obviously I spoke to a lot of different, I was lucky enough to speak to a lot of different clubs and and a lot of them said that they were interested in having me on their list and everything. But yeah, it was sort of just weighing up all of the different sort of options and yeah, sort of just using those people close to me with my family and all, and also my management agency and that sort of just, yeah, as I said, weighing up all of the different options and sort of at the end of the day, I was obviously lucky enough to train with Port throughout the season, so I sort of already had a bit of knowledge of how they wanted to play and with the people that they have on the list, playing state and everything with a lot of the girls, it was, I feel like it's an exciting time to be involved in the club and hopefully we can have a bit more success on the team as well.
And you mentioned your management agency. You were managed by More Than Management. How helpful have the team at More Than Management been in your draft journey and your football journey so far?
Yeah, they've been great. I signed with them like over a year ago. So I've been with them for a while now, but they've just been great with everything that they do. They're always wanting to help their athletes and everything. And obviously they've got a lot of the higher names in the competition with like Ali Anderson and sort of all of those girls. So yeah, I was just grateful that they were sort of interested in me to start with, and then yeah, it was sort of a no-brainer to sign with them. So yeah, I've just been extremely fortunate that I was lucky enough to sign with them.
And what was it sort of like to I guess be pre-signed by Port Adelaide? Because it's obviously different to the draft process. It probably alleviated some of the stress and some of the nerves. How did you find the pre-signing process once you were sort of signed?
Yeah, it was obviously there wasn't as much stress if I was to go in the draft. So, but yeah, it was just sort of great to get it over and done with. So I think the pre-signing was in November or early November or something. So yeah, just to sort of get that out the way, and then um, we were sort of brought into that program straight away. So unlike the draft players who had to wait probably until the new year to sort of start the high performance sort of aspect, and that we sort of got a bit of a head start with that. So yeah, in that sense, we were probably lucky to be pre-signed because obviously getting those that high performance stuff under our belt a bit earlier was extremely helpful, and then yeah, sort of just meeting all of the girls a bit earlier as well.
And you still, I believe, attended the AFLW draft. What was that experience like, knowing that you were already signed to a club?
Yeah, there was still a bit of nerves and stresses for obviously the girls that I did know being involved in the AFLW academy as well. So there was obviously a fair few of those girls that were lucky enough to be invited there as well and to get picked up. So obviously just great to see all of those girls and their dreams sort of be achieved. And yeah, I was just lucky enough to be invited as well as a spectator to watch on.
And what do you make of the under 18 expansion talent pathway pre-signing period? Do you think it's a fair system that's in place?
Yeah, obviously for those expansion teams, I mean it's only Ports going into their third season, so if you're wanting to make the competition better and a bit more even for to make it better for spectators to watch, which will then have a positive effect on basically all aspects of the business sort of side of the competition. So it's yeah, it's sort of just putting in place as much as you can to make the competition a bit more even, and then but then as in saying that, I presume obviously the pre-signing won't be around for much longer, considering, as I said, like those expansion teams will be going into their sort of third season, and well, with what Sydney were able to achieve last year, going into finals and everything. So yeah, you wouldn't think that it would be around too much longer, considering it is evening out a bit more, but yeah, it was great to sort of have that for the last couple of years.
And you were expected that it's expected that you were going to be a key member of Port Adelaide's midfield this season. How much does that excite you?
Yeah, it's crazy to sort of think that what I feel like yeah, the list that Port have right now is really exciting to be involved in, as I said previously, and I feel like we would probably have the best list in the comp right now, which is exciting to be sort of a part of. Obviously, that's a bit biased again, but so yeah, it's just really exciting to be a part of, and obviously the midfield group that is there currently is extremely young, and there's a lot of upside to be sort of involved in that right now as well, and just sort of learning as much as I can again from those like Abby Derricks and like Maria Maloney's and all of those sort of players as well.
Who are some of the Port Adelaide AFLW players that you were excited to play alongside?
Yeah, I feel like it would just be a dream come true to get that opportunity to play with any of them really. But like Gemma Houghton, I feel like that would be crazy to play alongside her. Yesterday actually we did some skills and just a bit of extra skills and kicking. So yeah, it's just been great to sort of get to know her a bit better and sort of how she wants to play. But then, like, obviously, it'll be great to sort of be playing alongside Matilda again. Obviously, I was in the state team with her, so I always love playing with Tilds with her ruck craft as well. She normally just puts it on a platter for our midfielders, so it'll be exciting to be involved in that as well.
And the club are running optional skills and gym sessions each week in the off season to assist players to stay fit and to improve their fitness. How have you found those skills and have you attended them, I guess?
Yeah, so I've been trying to go to as many of them as possible. Obviously, when you're on a full year getting paid for a full year for your contract, it's sort of making sure that you're using all of those facilities available and having the high performance um, there to use it as much as you can to sort of put your best foot forward until we get to pre-season. But it's not just about the high performance, it's about sort of getting to know as much as you can about the players and sort of building those connections so you're not sort of wasting that time when pre-season does come around. So yeah, I've been trying to obviously get to as many sessions as possible, and yeah, we've had pretty decent numbers coming out as well, which is good to see.
And Sam Virgo has sort of been the caretaker and overlooking the AFLW program while Lauren Arnell is on parental leave. What has it been like to work with Sam and what have you learnt from Sam?
Yeah, obviously, Sam being a ex AFLW player herself, so obviously she sort of understands what we go through as players, and it's sort of just great to get that insight from, although she's a coach now, but sort of she has that mindset of previously being a player herself. And I mean, Sam and Loz obviously would be talking a lot about how they want to run the sessions and what they sort of want to achieve out of that. So although Lauren isn't there, all that, like, she's been coming out a bit lately, sort of to just see how the girls are going. But obviously she has to look after little Marley as well. So, but yeah, obviously they communicate a fair bit, and it's not really just that one coach leading the way. It's sort of the whole coaching panel that is sort of running it. So yeah.
And outside of, I guess, your football commitments, you've got some part-time work, I believe. Are you also studying at university as well?
Not right now. I did apply to do exercise and sports science, which I was accepted into, but I deferred that for this year so I could just get a bit of a just settle into sort of being in the AFLW environment, and then I'll probably study next year or something. But yeah, other than that, I'm doing just casual work with the club in that community sort of stuff, going out to schools and sort of teaching younger kids about healthy eating and all of the, all healthy habits and everything. So that's been good as well.
And what do you think has been the biggest lesson that you've learnt from your football journey so far?
Yeah, it's sort of just obviously not dwelling on your mistakes and sort of just moving past those. Obviously, as I said before, I sort of still do that a bit, but it's sort of just learning more about how I can move on from that. So yeah,
Well, thank you for joining me today, Shanae, and all the best of luck in the upcoming season. I can't wait to watch how Port season goes and how you play. So thanks for your time.
no worries, Fletch. Thanks for having me on.